If you saw a scruffy single dad and his 6-year-old daughter at a fancy restaurant, you'd probably smile. But if you saw them sitting across from a powerful CEO on a blind date, you'd have to watch. What happened next wasn't just awkward, it was a miracle that left everyone in tears. This is a story about the secret scars we carry, and the unexpected people who help them heal. Stick with me to the end, this one will change how you see kindness forever. And if you believe in second chances, hit that like button and subscribe to True Kindness Tales for more stories that restore your faith in humanity. The weight of Ethan's promise felt heavier than his worn-out work boots as he knelt to tie his daughter Chloe's little sneaker. "Remember the rules, bug," he said, forcing a smile. "Best restaurant behavior, okay. And the lady we're meeting, she's important." Chloe, 6 years old with eyes that held galaxies and a daisy print dress slightly too big, nodded solemnly. "I'll be extra good, Daddy. For Mommy." That, for Mommy, was the knife twist that propelled every impossible decision. Sarah, his wife, Chloe's mother, had been gone for 2 years, lost to a swift and cruel illness. Her last, gasping request was a lullaby of worry: "Don't let her grow up thinking love is lost forever, Ethan. Find it again, for her." The debt from Sarah's medical bills had swallowed their savings in his pride. He worked 2 jobs, construction by day, stocking shelves by night, but the hole was bottomless. The elegant, discreet envelope from the matchmaking service had felt like a cruel joke. Elite pairings, for discerning professionals. His buddy Mike, who'd submitted his profile as a drunken intervention, had been horrified when they actually called. "Her profile says she's a philanthropist, man. Just go. A free steak at least." But the woman on the phone, a voice like polished marble, had been clear. "Ms. Thorne is a very busy, very private individual. She values authenticity. Bring your whole self, Mr. Miller." In a moment of sleep-deprived insanity, Ethan had decided, whole self included Chloe. It was a Tuesday, his regular sitter had cancelled, and a deeper, stubborn part of him refused to pretend his life wasn't what it was: a package deal, messy and beautiful and full of macaroni art. The restaurant, La Pearl, was a temple of hushed tones and crystal. Chloe's "wow" was a whisper against his worn jacket. He saw their reflection in the glass door, a man playing dress-up in a borrowed hope, and a tiny, serious flower girl. His heart hammered against his ribs. This was a disaster. He was about to turn and flee when the hostess glided over. "Mr. Miller, your party is already seated." And there she was. At the best table, overlooking the city's glittering skyline, sat Eleanor Thorne. CEO of Thorne Innovations, her picture often in the business section, a woman of sleek, silver-streaked dark hair and an impassive, elegant face. She wore a simple black dress that probably cost more than his truck. She wasn't just out of his league, she was from a different universe. Her expression, as she looked up from her phone, didn't change, but her eyes, sharp, assessing, took in every detail: his nervous stance, Chloe's hand clutching his, the little backpack shaped like a ladybug. "Mr. Miller," she said, her voice cool, devoid of warmth. "And this is Chloe, my daughter. There was no sitter. I'm so sorry, this was a mistake, we'll just," Ethan stammered, heat flooding his cheeks. Eleanor's gaze remained fixed on Chloe, who, bless her brave heart, gave a small wave. "Hello, I like your necklace. It's shiny like a star." For a fraction of a second, something flickered in Eleanor's eyes. Something that wasn't ice. "Thank you," she said, her voice softening a mere decibel. "It was my mother's." She then gestured to the chair opposite her. "Sit, please." What followed was the most excruciating hour of Ethan's life. He tried to make conversation about her work, stumbling over tech terms. She answered in monosyllables. Chloe, true to her word, was angelic, coloring quietly, but the imbalance was palpable. The waiter's pitying glance as he brought Chloe a complimentary lemonade felt like a brand. Ethan was just formulating his exit speech when Chloe, reaching for her crayon, knocked over her glass. Icy lemonade cascaded over the white tablecloth and, catastrophically, onto Eleanor Thorne's immaculate lap. Time froze. Ethan saw his future evaporate. "Chloe, I'm so sorry, Ms. Thorne." He grabbed napkins, hands trembling. But Eleanor didn't look at the stain. She was looking at Chloe's face, which had crumpled in utter devastation, fat tears welling. "I'm sorry, Daddy," she whimpered, her little voice cracking. "I ruined the date for Mommy." The silence that followed was profound. The words hung in the air, a raw, painful confession. Ethan's own eyes stung. He pulled Chloe into his side. Shish, bug, it's okay. Eleanor Thorne slowly placed her linen napkin on the table. She did not dab at the stain. She looked from Chloe's heartbroken face to Ethan's desperate, humiliated one. And then, the CEO's reaction changed everything. Eleanor Thorne did not get angry. She did not summon the manager. She simply stared at the little girl, whose tear-streaked face held a grief far too large for her small frame, and then at the father, whose eyes held a world of exhaustion and fierce, defensive love. The words, "I ruined the date for mommy," seemed to echo in the plush silence, bypassing all of Eleanor's polished defenses and striking something deep and long buried. Her own mother's necklace felt suddenly heavy against her skin. "It's just water," Eleanor said, her voice strangely quiet. She didn't sound like a CEO, she sounded human. She flagged the waiter not with impatience, but with a small, graceful wave. "Could we have some more napkins, please? And perhaps a slice of the chocolate torte for the young lady?" Ethan could only blink, holding a shaking Chloe. "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to," Eleanor interrupted, but her tone wasn't harsh. It was final. As the mess was cleared, she turned her chair slightly, focusing on Chloe. "You were thinking of your mother tonight." Chloe, emboldened by the promise of cake and the strange lady's soft voice, sniffled and nodded. "Daddy has a picture. She's pretty. She's in the stars now. Daddy said this date was so he wouldn't be lonely anymore. But I was scared." Each word was a gentle hammer on the wall around Eleanor's heart. She looked at Ethan, really looked at him. She saw the calloused hands, the two sharp cheekbones of a man skipping meals, the love in his eyes as he soothed his daughter. This wasn't a gold digger. This was a drowning man clinging to a single, fragile life raft. "My profile," Eleanor began, choosing her words with a new care. "It said I was a philanthropist. That is true. But my interest in elite pairings was pragmatic. A strategic alliance. I had no intention of finding anything real." She paused, tracing the rim of her water glass. "Authenticity, Mr. Miller, is a currency I rarely encounter. You brought yours, in the form of a little girl and a spilled glass. It is refreshing." The cake arrived, and Chloe's world brightened. As she took a careful bite, Eleanor asked her about school, her ladybug backpack, her favorite stories. Ethan watched, stunned, as the formidable CEO listened with genuine attention, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching her lips when Chloe declared her love for books. "About astronauts." Then Eleanor turned back to Ethan. "Tell me about Sarah." It wasn't a command, it was an invitation. And under the soft lights, with Chloe contentedly eating, the story spilled out of him, not the sanitized version for dates, but the real one. The sound of Sarah's laugh, the way she could fix anything with a kiss, the brutal, swift cancer that stole her, the avalanche of debt that followed, the constant fear of not being enough for Chloe. He spoke of the loneliness that was a physical ache, and the promise he couldn't bring himself to break. Eleanor listened without a single glance at her phone. When he finished, she was silent for a long moment. "I lost my mother when I was 8, she said, the words startling even herself. "My father was not like you. He saw children as accessories, emotions as liabilities. I learned to build fortresses instead of bridges. Thorne Innovations is my fortress. But fortresses," she looked at Chloe, now showing her a crayon drawing, "are very empty." She reached into her purse, not for a credit card, but for a plain business card. On the back, she wrote a number. "This is my personal cell, Ethan. Not my assistant's. Mine." She slid it across the table. "Tomorrow, call this number. It's for the director of the Thorne Family Foundation. We have a fund for families facing catastrophic medical debt. It is not a loan. It is a grant." Ethan's breath hitched. "I can't accept charity." "It's not charity," Eleanor said, her CEO voice returning, but laced with something new. "It's an investment. In a father who puts his daughter first. In a man honest enough to bring his whole life to a blind date. Let us help you stand on solid ground again." For Chloe, tears he'd held back for years finally brimmed in Ethan's eyes. The relief was so violent it was dizzying. The following months were a whirlwind of quiet miracles. The Thorne Foundation didn't just write a check, they assigned a compassionate caseworker who navigated the labyrinth of medical bills, negotiating and paying them directly. The weight that had crushed Ethan's shoulders for 2 years began to lift, gram by gram. He could breathe. For the first time since Sarah's death, he slept through the night. But the greater miracle unfolded more slowly. Eleanor Thorne, the fortress, kept finding reasons to lower her drawbridge. It started with a text. Does Chloe enjoy the planetarium? I have passes. Then it was. I've heard of an excellent, affordable preschool with an opening. May I make a call? Each gesture was practical, devoid of pity, delivered with her characteristic efficiency. Yet, behind each one was a startling, growing care. Ethan, guided by a blossoming friendship he never could have imagined, began to heal. He used his newfound stability to take a welding course, a skill he'd always loved, and landed a better job. He started smiling again, genuine smiles that reached his eyes. The true alchemy, however, was between Eleanor and Chloe. The little girl, with her unerring instinct for genuine hearts, saw not a CEO, but Ellie, a woman who needed someone to show her ladybug drawings and teach her how to blow dandelion clocks. Eleanor, in turn, discovered a part of herself she thought fossilized, a capacity for silly, unguarded joy. She attended Chloe's school play, a stiff but beaming figure in the back row, holding a bouquet too large. She learned to make burned chocolate chip cookies in Ethan's modest kitchen, her laughter, rusty and real, filling the house. One Saturday afternoon, a year after the disastrous blind date, they were in Ethan's backyard. Chloe was teaching Eleanor how to make a daisy chain, the CEO's usually impeccable suit jacket discarded on the grass. Ethan watched them from the porch, his heart full. In a way he'd thought impossible. Eleanor looked up, a lopsided daisy crown perched precariously on her elegant silver hair. She met his gaze, and the usual guardedness was gone, replaced by a quiet, profound peace. You know, she said, her voice soft, I sought a strategic alliance. A merger of portfolios. I never dreamed I'd find a family. Ethan walked over, sitting beside them on the sun-warmed grass. We never dreamed we'd find you, Ellie. He hadn't planned the next words, but they felt as natural as breathing. Sarah's last wish was for me to find love again. I think she just wanted me to find my way back to life. And you, he took Eleanor's hand, the one that commanded boardrooms, now stained with grass and dotted with Chloe's sticky fingerprints, you didn't just help me find my way. You walked into our lives and helped us build a new one. A beautiful, mosaic one, with pieces of Sarah, and Chloe, and me, and you. Tears glistened in Eleanor's eyes. She didn't brush them away. Chloe, sensing the moment, carefully placed her finished daisy chain around Eleanor's neck. Now you're the queen of the garden, Ellie, she declared. Eleanor pulled Chloe into a one-armed hug, her other hand still holding Ethan's. She was no longer just a CEO, no longer just a philanthropist. She was part of a mosaic, her once empty spaces filled with crayon drawings, bedtime stories, and a love that asked for nothing but her authentic self. The blind date that began with a spilled glass had ended not with a transaction, but with a transformation. It changed everything, not by erasing the past, but by weaving it into a future big enough for all of them, a future built not on prestige or power, but on true, unexpected, and deeply kindred kindness. This story proves that sometimes, our biggest messes, a spilled drink, a broken heart, a mountain of debt, are just the beginning of a beautiful new chapter. Eleanor, Ethan, and Chloe taught us that family isn't always about where you start, but who you find along the way. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in unexpected blessings and fresh starts, please like this video. And for more real-life tales of compassion that will inspire you and remind you of the good in the world, subscribe to True Kindness Tales and hit that notification bell. Share your own stories of kindness in the comments below. Until next time, remember, sometimes, the most extraordinary connections begin with an ordinary, messy, and perfectly honest hello.